The Ten Commandments monument in front of the Kalispell courthouse targeted by a vandal. Coming up, what happened and the extent of that damage.
I'm Mike Dennison at the Capitol. The 2020 race for governor in Montana is definitely a study in contrast. I'll have more coming up.
Right at 6:30 now on this Tuesday. Chet Lehman, Caitlin Corbett, Matt Elwell looking out the window, and much nicer than it looked yesterday.
Yes.
But looks are deceiving. It's a little chillier than it was
It
yesterday.
looks beautiful, but
cold.
your jacket is needed today for sure. Temperatures across the area into the 30s. Yes, a lot of 30s too.
Yeah, right.
A couple of 40s sneaking in there. Ennis sitting at 42 degrees right now. Nothing really in the form of rain that we're seeing. The clouds are beautiful, kind of sloping their way through the area. But as you get into the afternoon, the showers are going to increase across the region. May include a rumble of thunder by the mid-afternoon. But it does look like Tuesday is going to be pretty damp overall. Daytime highs back into the 50s, maybe some low 60s in the area. It looks like the temperatures remain pretty chilly for the next couple of days, but we are warming up for the 4th of July weekend. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Almost 6:31 now. A woman is recovering this morning in Idaho Falls after getting gored when she got too close to a bison in Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah, a woman 72 years old visiting from California. Park officials say she got within 10 feet of a bison multiple times to try to take a photo. The animal eventually charged. That incident happened last Thursday, June 25th at her campsite at Bridge Bay Campground. Rangers provided immediate medical care to the woman who suffered multiple wounds. She was then flown via helicopter to Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center. No word right now on her condition.
A Columbia Falls man is facing charges after being accused of removing the Ten Commandments monument outside of the Flathead County Courthouse. MTN's Sean Wells shows us the damage done.
30-year-old Anthony Weimer has been charged with felony criminal mischief after pulling a Ten Commandments monument out of the ground and into the middle of the street. Kalispell Police Chief Doug Overman says Weimer wrapped chains around the monument, pulled it out of the ground behind his pickup truck, and then dragged it into the middle of the street. Weimer was located and arrested in Kalispell shortly after the incident occurred. Chief Overman says it's unknown at this time if the monument will be restored or if it has to be replaced. He says they don't know what provoked the act of vandalism. Overman says Weimer has no affiliation with any protest or demonstration groups in Flathead County. In Kalispell, Sean Wells, MTN News.
And Weimer remains in custody at the Flathead County Detention Center in Kalispell.
Well, after being delayed because of the pandemic, Missoula County pressing ahead with plans to hold a summit to discuss plans to bring passenger rail service back to southern Montana. Missoula County commissioners have been working with their counterparts in other counties to float the idea of bringing passenger rail service across the southern route. It's been more than 40 years since Amtrak provided regular service between Billings and Missoula. County Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer, that's Missoula County Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer, promoting the idea of forming a Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, which would provide a multi-county structure to explore organizing and funding such operations.
Been a challenge. As we all know, we've been living through a pandemic, and we had planned on having an in-person summit back in the month of April, but we had to pivot, and so we have regrouped and are going to be launching a virtual summit on September 17th of this year.
Now, commissioners are expected to draft a letter to Montana's congressional delegation this week asking for federal support to explore the idea of southern route rail service.
The governor's seat is open this year in Montana, and the race to succeed Democrat Steve Bullock is one of the top electoral contests of 2020.
It's a rematch of sorts. The man Bullock defeated in 2016, Republican Greg Gianforte, is taking on Bullock's lieutenant governor, Democrat Mike Cooney. Now, with the primary election now in the rearview mirror, MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison gives us a closer look at how this race is shaping up.
It's no secret what Congressman Greg Gianforte will emphasize during his second run for the governor's office: his background in business and a business-friendly approach to running the government.
I am running solely to create more good-paying jobs for Montanan. As I talk to small business, we need a top-to-bottom regulatory review because there's too much friction for small business.
Gianforte co-founded a software development firm in Bozeman in the mid-1990s that grew into an international company and made him one of the wealthiest people in Montana when it was sold to Oracle Corporation in 2012. His campaign also is calling Cooney a career politician and government bureaucrat who, as they put it, has never had a real job. Cooney says he doubts that line of attack will resonate with Montana voters.
I think people from New Jersey have a funny way of saying thank you for your public service. Montanans are going to look at that and basically say that's just not true.
Cooney has worked for government much of his life, as Montana's Secretary of State for 12 years, as an aide to former U.S. Senator Max Baucus, and an administrator in the State Department of Labor. The New Jersey reference indicates that Cooney plans a campaign similar to what he and Bullock ran against Gianforte in 2016, reminding voters that Gianforte moved here from New Jersey more than 25 years ago, and telling them Gianforte just wants to slash government services, including health care, and undermine public education. That also includes the suggestion that the Bozeman multimillionaire is going to, quote-unquote, buy the race.
I can't write myself $1 million check or a $2 million check or a $5 million check. I can't do that. Plus, we'll be going out having conversations with Montanans and listening to what they have to say. They're not willing to put this next election up on the auction block and sell it to the highest bidder.
Gianforte has put $1.5 million of his own money into the campaign so far. He declined to say how much more he might spend, but sources tell MTN News he's told them he's prepared to spend a few million more. Gianforte says he'll unveil a business plan for the state in late July, and that he'd like to freeze state spending and, if possible, reduce state income and property taxes. He also wants to take on a tough problem facing Montana, drug addiction and abuse, which he says is the source of much crime and child neglect.
And I think we need to focus more on rehabilitation instead of incarceration. We have treatment courts in many of our counties, and yet some of them don't have them. And they work so much better than a jail cell for non-violent drug addicts.
Cooney has plans to give Montanans access to cheaper prescription drugs by importing them from Canada. But mostly Cooney is saying he'll be a steady hand who bolsters public education and improves access to affordable health care and maintains a solidly balanced state budget.
People in Montana have trusted me to be in public office. They've elected me a number of times to serve, and I've stepped up each and every time. And I think that's prepared me very well to take this state in a very positive direction.
Gianforte says he wants to scrutinize government with an eye toward making it more efficient and responsive to business.
We're going to look to have to prioritize maintaining essential services while also finding inefficiencies and waste so we can balance the budget without raising taxes on Montanans.
Two very different men, two very different approaches to governing. We'll be telling you more about both of them as the summer and fall unfolds. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
The mining city Butte firefighters had to extract 2 people trapped in this minivan. Now, it happened after the minivan was involved in a 2-vehicle crash on Montana Street in Butte about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. First responders had to cut open the roof of the vehicle just to get those 2 people out. Fire officials say the occupants did not appear to be seriously injured. The accident remains under investigation.
And Montana's oldest World War II veteran in this state passed away yesterday in Belgrade. Ernest Hoffman was 106 years old. Now, these video from a story we did on Veterans Day celebration this past year at Belgrade High School. Again, Hoffman was in Europe during the war, was at the Battle of the Bulge. He was a Belgrade High School graduate and received an award at Belgrade's Veterans Day ceremony in November of 2017.
And residents at a senior center in Bozeman were in for a treat yesterday with a surprise musical concert. Spring Hill Church arranged to have a brass concert outside of Bridger Healthcare to play music for its residents. People gathered to wave at those watching through their windows. The seniors living there haven't really been able to have any visitors come inside for months, and this is a way to bring a bit of joy to start their week.
I think it means so much because they've really become part of our family, and we're family to them. And so it's like a communication that we haven't been able to have for the last 2.5 months, 3 months.
Smith says they may hold another concert for the residents soon with even more musicians.
I'm sure they love that.
I'm sure too. That's so cute.
I love that. Again, rest in peace, Ernest Hoffman, Montana veteran from Belgrade.
I had a school project on Battle of the Bulge, actually. So,
is that right?
Yes, I was very familiar with that.
Isn't that phenomenal?
Rest in peace to him.
There you go. A piece of Montana history has left us. 6:39 now. We're going to take a quick break. The latest victim of COVID-19, sheet cakes. So how does a cake get killed by a virus? Having a story you're likely familiar with. Coming up, find out how it happened and what it means. But first, here's what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS this morning, dire warnings from the WHO and the White House Coronavirus Task Force as new cases continue to rise in more than half the country. Why restaurants are being singled out as a major source of the latest outbreak. Plus, author Colson Whitehead joins us to discuss his Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Nickel Boys, and talk about his writing on racism. We'll tell you why he feels encouraged by the nationwide protest demanding change. And in our new series, New Normal, The World from Home, we'll take you on a virtual safari to find out what nature can teach us about resilience and getting through tough times. Nature has seen a few. We'll see you at 7.